Okay, this is entry number 1 of your vet school medicine channel that we're gonna do. Your 3rd week, how do you feel?
Feel nothing. I feel nothing.
I guess you don't have to look. You can't do it.
I don't know. I'm just going through the motions, just trying to get through.
Okay, tell me about the first week when you're doing your dissection right away.
Well, we had to skin the dog and skin the cat, and I was the poor soul that had to be the one that got to skin the dog. And we get the biggest dog possible that has a hide this thick, and you get a tiny scalpel blade, and you're trying to pull the skin away from the body, and it took us 4 hours to skin the dog. My finger, I'm pretty sure, is permanently bent from the 4 hours of trying to cut. It was awful. It was like the worst first lab experience any person could have had. And I smelled like formaldehyde. My whole body smelled like formaldehyde because it was juicy.
How many like cadavers do they have out?
So you have to go grab your cadaver out of the freezer. So you go into this big freezer. It's like shopping for a dead animal. And there's shelves and there's all these dead animals on it. And we had each group gets 2 cats and 1 dog. And you go grab your animals, they're labeled, so they're labeled by numbers. So you go in, you grab your number, you bring it to the table, and you start doing your whatever the lab manual sets for the day. But I've had the fun part of figuring out that the lab stuff I printed off was not actually what we needed to do. So everything that like 5 hours I put into copying and pasting pictures and labeling wasn't even applicable to what we were doing.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. So I wasted 4 to 5 hours of my time trying to be super organized, super prepped, and it backfired. So right now I'm kind of in the adjustment period of figuring out how do I prep for lab best so that I know what I'm doing and ready to go, because it's been terrible. It's only 2 labs in, and it's been hell.
That sounds tough. 1 to 10 stressfulness so far in week 3. This is your 3rd week of class.
8. I'm at a high 8.
Yeah.
High 8 because we have our first histology, so microanatomy test, which I'm going to do that this morning, get that done, and then I have a whole bunch of other things that need to get done. I tried to plan ahead because I knew this week was going to be hell week. Usually around 3 week or 4 is when it starts to really pick up. Just from undergrad, I knew it was going to be terrible. We have that exam today that we can take, and then I have a physiology exam next week, which is just it goes in and out over my head. All that stuff does. So for me to try and understand it, I have to legitimately just sit down and look at it, which take hours upon hours upon hours of studying and prep. And I have that, and then I also have to prep for anatomy lab, and I also have to prep for our clinical skills, because we have a check-in tomorrow. So that's what I did last night, was I went in. So with our clinical skills, that's where we actually are working on skills that are applicable to what we're going to do in the clinic, which I find extremely enjoyable, considering that I worked in a clinic for almost 4 years. So get to actually practice those skills, but I wanted to make sure that, I passed with flying colors, so I just went and had somebody instruct me. And then balancing life with it all too. I mean, the laundry pile is this high. Everything's clean, it just hasn't been folded, which that's just how everybody is. But then, someone asked me to help them, and it's like, well, I can barely make dinner for myself, so no, I'm not helping you today.
Who asked you to help you?
Someone asked me my opinion on like a showmanship pattern, and I'm like, I do not have time. I would love to talk to you, but I have no freaking time. Look at me, my hair. I haven't even brushed my teeth yet.
Are you enjoying this?
I think enjoy is a tough word. I mean, I guess, yes, this is what I've been preparing for my whole life, was to go to school for this. I knew it was going to be tough. I don't mind the struggles. I don't mind the early mornings and the late nights, but it feels kind of like right now an uphill battle that I'm never going to see the top, and that's just part of the process. So I'm just trying to figure out what makes the process easier for me and what actually works for me, and that's what's the most time consuming, is trying to figure out a system.
Do you feel like do you feel like you've found a groove at all? Like, do you have a rhythm to your days? Do you have
They're like 12-hour days, 14-hour days, sometimes even longer than that. It's usually, I mean, I'm so tired the next morning. The good news is a lot of our classes have Zoom option, and since I'm commuting, 25 to 30 minutes depending on traffic, I really like being able to sit at home, do my lectures, and then go to class later in the day to avoid going to traffic. That's something I really do enjoy now. I love going to class and sitting and interacting with the professor, but I think for me right now, for what I'm trying to learn and absorb, doing it on Zoom is the best thing. And then being able to go apply it in our labs, it's nice too.
What are some of the biggest positives so far?
That I'm actually in this, because it's taking me 4 years to get into this program. So kind of, I wouldn't say it's in the thriving stage, it's more I'm stressed with trying to figure out what works for me. And usually what's the most stressful part is figuring out what are the exams going to be like, what is the material I'm actually going to be tested on, like, or how difficult is it going to be, how in depth do I need to go, because I'm the kind of person, I will study to death, and I want to know every single little thing. And with, for example, physiology, the test I have next week, it is 14 lectures of extremely dense material. So I'm on lecture, I retype out my notes and I make questions for myself so I can learn how to test myself on the material and, see, do I really know this, and give myself an applicable, quote unquote, fun way to make sure I know the material. I am on lecture number 4 of typing up notes, and I am at 40 pages, and it's 14 lectures. So, yes, so to try and condense that, and then the good news is we do get one side of a sheet of paper for our cheat sheet, but that's not going to do jack shit when you have 14 lectures of stuff, and it's dense. I mean, dense. Learning so physiology, for example, you're learning about all the different receptors in the body that relate to different organs, or relate to different neuroreceptors, all these different things, and you have to memorize where they are, what they do, the process it is, and the enzymes that are used to create it. And not only that, but also what happens when things go wrong. So usually I find that to be the most interesting, is what goes wrong. So why do you see diabetes in dogs and cats, or any animal, so to say, or even a person? Why do you see the multi-drug resistance gene issue with your dogs? Learning how these different receptors are applicable to actual medicine does help, but it's trying to understand the big picture when you're given such teeny tiny details. It's really hard to put in perspective.
I guess those are some of I was going to ask you biggest negatives.
It's trying to see what I actually truly need to know, because right now it feels like I am a tiny fish in a gigantic ocean trying to figure out where everything is. And especially with physiology is the one I keep going to, because it's a very challenging course for me. In coordination with that, we also have anatomy, which is a really dense material. Now, something that I think is a little bit easier to understand because it's the body. You learn where the muscles attach. You can physically see where the muscles attach. You can see what these muscles truly do. You can see, what happens when this muscle reflects or when it extends, and the bones that are associated with it. Constantly you see with bones. But it's having the time to learn the ins and outs of everything, and it's all a big picture, but it's really hard to do that.
What are the hardest parts? I mean, that's kind of what you just.
The hardest parts for sure are just trying to keep in perspective and be in the moment of when you're learning something, but also being able to bounce back and forth between this is part of the big picture, or this is just a small detail that you need to know, because without this detail you don't have A, you can't have B or C. And I'm learning a lot every day. My head is throbbing by the end of the day. I have found that drinking a lot of water does help. So think about how much brain power you need. Your brain needs oxygen. So drinking in lots of water because water having oxygen. So that kind of helps me with the migraines. I mean, I drink water like a water buffalo. I'm just taking it all in.
On that, give me what's some advice you have. Besides, I mean, you just did it. I swear, I think you read my list of questions.
No.
What's some advice?
I don't really have any advice because I don't know if what I'm doing is truly working. But what I'm doing is I take some people just naturally understand this stuff based on their background of what they have. A lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but some of my classmates, they majored in biochemistry. So they understand all these transporters. They understand the cells and the process of what causes what and what does it do. I was good at biochemistry, but I only took a semester of it. I really enjoyed it, but it just was a lot of repetition and practice and watching YouTube videos to understand, what does it physically look like, what does it do. So trying to figure out a system that works. Obviously, they're going to say the work-life balance thing, but I can't. Right now, I'm struggling to get that work-life balance. I would love to go, even when I go out to the barn to see my horse for 2 or 3 hours, I am on edge thinking about, I gotta finish my study guide, I gotta finish this assignment, and this. So trying to figure that out. I usually bring my stuff with me to the barn so that if I get anxious about it, I could just go work on it. I think that helps. Having that security of, okay, I finished doing showmanship with Cannonball, I'm going to go and do this. But it's also kind of tricky for me right now because I really want to enjoy my time with my horse. I do, but I feel like I kind of put a window on myself. If you get 2 hours, figure it out. You gotta do it quick. You get 2 hours. Because there's only so many hours in the day, and once midnight hits, I'm toast for the day. Especially if I've been up since 6 or 7. I mean, that's a long day.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to cut myself off at midnight. Otherwise, I am a puddle the next day, and then I'm no good.
Mm-hmm. Which direction of vet medicine are you currently thinking you will go?
Somewhere with nothing to do with physiology. I don't know. I like skin stuff. I like popping things. I like doing those. I enjoy bandaging. I like doing. I don't really know. I know dermatology is just something. I have a rotation that I'm gonna do in December to see if it's something I really do want to do. But I worked in primary practice for 3.5, almost 4 years. So I did enjoy the vets I worked for were amazing, and the techs that I worked with were also amazing, and it was just a really positive experience in general practice, and I loved it. But I don't know if it's something that I would want to do long term. I know that if I want to do a residency with a dermatologist, I need to start getting in now, so that's why I'm doing that rotation. Mm-hmm. And I might have to do a year working at a general practice just to get more experience under my belt before going.
Okay, last words of this first installment of how vet school is. Last words.
Fuck it.
Okay. Okay, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I look like a mess. I look like